The first time my husband brought another woman into our home, he did not look ashamed. That was what I remember most. Not the sound of her heels clicking across the marble foyer. Not the way her perfume floated into my kitchen before she did. Sweet and expensive and completely wrong for a Tuesday morning. Not even the fact that she was wearing my husband's shirt beneath a camel coat, the white cuff hanging past her wrist like she had dressed in a hurry and wanted me to notice. No. What I remember most is Ethan's face. Calm. Smug. Almost bored. As if bringing his mistress into the home I had decorated, cleaned, paid taxes on, and filled with 6 years of marriage was not betrayal. As if it were a business update. I was standing by the kitchen island barefoot, stirring cream into my coffee. The house was quiet until the front door opened. I thought Ethan had forgotten his laptop again. He was always forgetting something. Keys. Chargers. Anniversaries. The names of people who had helped him before he became important. Then I heard the woman laugh. Soft. Practiced. Possessive. I stepped into the hallway and saw them. Ethan stood near the entry table in his navy suit, one hand in his pocket, the other resting lightly against the small of her back. The woman was beautiful in the expensive way certain women are beautiful. Blonde waves. Diamond studs. Skin that looked like it had never met bad lighting. Her coat was draped open just enough for me to see the shirt. His shirt. My husband's shirt. She looked around my house with the relaxed curiosity of someone touring a hotel suite she had already decided to occupy. Then she looked at me. Her smile did not reach her eyes. So this is Grace, she said. Not Mrs. Walker. Not your wife. Grace. As if we had been discussed often enough for her to feel familiar. Ethan closed the door behind them. Grace, he said. This is Olivia. I waited. He did not say her last name. He did not say colleague. He did not say client. He did not say sorry. So I asked, why is she in my house? Olivia laughed softly and looked at Ethan. Wow. You were right. I turned to him. Right about what? Ethan sighed. The way he did when he wanted me to feel unreasonable before I had even finished speaking. Don't make this dramatic. I looked at the woman wearing his shirt. Dramatic. Olivia walked farther inside, running one finger over the polished console table beneath our wedding photograph. Our wedding photograph. She paused there and smiled at it. You were pretty, she said. Very simple. That was when I understood. This was not an affair accidentally exposed. This was a presentation. Ethan had brought her here because he wanted me to see her. He wanted me to understand that the humiliation was not hidden anymore. It had graduated. Ethan removed his coat and laid it over the chair beside the stairs. I need you to listen carefully, he said. I looked at him. 6 years of marriage had trained me to recognize his tones. This was the voice he used with assistants, with restaurant managers, with junior analysts, with anyone he thought should be grateful for instruction. Olivia wandered into the living room, examining the art on the walls. Ethan continued. Olivia and I are together. There it was. Not even softened. No mistake. No confusion. No, I never meant to hurt you. Just a status update. I placed my coffee mug on the side table. I see. His brow furrowed. He had expected crying. Or shouting. Perhaps a thrown glass. I gave him neither. Olivia turned from the fireplace. Ethan told me you were quiet. I looked at her. And he told me you had manners. Her smile faltered. Good. Ethan's face hardened. Grace. What? Don't start. I almost laughed. He had brought his mistress into my home, and I was the one starting. Olivia stepped closer to him. It's fine, she said sweetly. I understand this must be painful for her. For her. As if I were not standing in the room. As if my marriage were already an old apartment they had finished packing. Ethan put an arm around Olivia's waist. That hurt. Not because I wanted his arm around me. I had stopped wanting that long before I admitted it. It hurt because of how easily he offered her protection while denying me respect. He said, Olivia's father is Victor Langford. I knew the name. Everyone in the city did. Victor Langford owned high-rise apartments, shopping centers, office towers, and half the restaurants where men like Ethan pretended they were born powerful. Or so people believed. Ethan watched my face carefully. When he saw recognition, he smiled. Her father owns half the properties in this city, he said. So do yourself a favor and don't upset her. For a moment the house went silent. Outside, a delivery truck passed slowly down the street. Somewhere in the kitchen the refrigerator hummed. Olivia's diamond earrings caught the morning light. Don't upset her. Not don't be hurt. Not I'm sorry. Not I betrayed you. Don't upset her. Something inside me became very still. I picked up my phone from the side table. Ethan smirked. Calling someone? I said nothing. My thumb moved across the screen. Dad, Ethan brought his mistress into my house. He says her father owns half the city and I shouldn't upset her. Her name is Olivia Langford. I pressed send. Ethan laughed. Your father? Grace, please. What is he going to do? Lecture me from whatever golf course he's retired on. Olivia tilted her head. What does your father do? I looked at her. He collects things. She smiled. That's adorable. I looked back at my phone. Delivered. Then read. 2 minutes passed. Not 3. Not 5. 2. Ethan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, irritated. Then his expression changed. He straightened. What? He muttered. Olivia looked at him. Who is it? He turned away slightly. This is Ethan Walker. I watched his face drain of color. Yes, Mr. Alden. Olivia's smile vanished. My maiden name was Alden, but very few people in Ethan's world knew that. Fewer knew what it meant. Ethan swallowed. No, sir. I didn't realize. He stopped. His eyes flicked to me. For the first time that morning he looked uncertain, then afraid. The doorbell rang. Once. Deep and elegant, echoing through the foyer. Olivia frowned. Are you expecting someone? I walked to the door and opened it. My father stood on the porch. Charles Alden. 72 years old. Silver hair. Dark overcoat. Cane in one hand, though he only used it when he wanted people to underestimate him. Behind him stood his general counsel, Martin Shaw, 2 security officers, and a woman from his executive office holding a leather folder against her chest. My father looked past me into the house. His eyes landed on Ethan. Then Olivia. Then the shirt. His face did not change. That was how people knew they were in danger. Good morning, Grace, he said. Morning, Dad. He stepped inside. Ethan looked as if the walls had moved closer. Olivia whispered, Dad. My father turned to her. Not yours, he said. Then he looked at Ethan. You told my daughter not to upset a Langford? Ethan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. My father smiled. It was not a kind smile. How unfortunate, he said. Victor Langford does not own half this city. He tapped his cane once against the marble floor. He leases most of it from me. Olivia's baby pink lips parted. Ethan gripped the back of the chair. My father turned to his assistant. Cancel every pending concession extended to Langford Holdings. Freeze all Walker-related contracts under Alden Group review. And Martin. The attorney opened his folder. Yes, Mr. Alden. Start with the house. Ethan's head snapped up. The house. My father looked at me. I nodded once. He turned back to Ethan. This property belongs to a trust created for my daughter before she ever made the mistake of taking your name. Olivia stepped back. Ethan whispered, Grace. I looked at him. He had said my name 1,000 times. Across dinner tables. In bed. Through closed bathroom doors. At charity events. In arguments. But he had never said it like that. Like a man discovering the floor under him had always belonged to someone else. I picked up my coffee. It was still warm. Then I said the first thing I had said since texting my father. Ethan, don't make this dramatic. Ethan did not understand at first. That was the most satisfying part. His brain could not put the pieces together quickly enough. My father. Alden. The house. The trust. Langford leasing property. Contracts frozen. His mistress standing in my foyer wearing his shirt while a billionaire he had accidentally mocked removed the oxygen from his life. He looked from my father to me, then back again. Grace, he said carefully. What is going on? I took one slow sip of coffee. You brought Olivia here. I assumed you wanted honesty. His jaw tightened. This is not the time for games. My father laughed once. No warmth. Mr. Walker, my daughter has spent 6 years not playing games. That appears to be how you confused her restraint for weakness. Olivia found her voice. Excuse me, she said. I don't know who you think you are, but my father. Victor Langford, my father interrupted, currently owes Alden Group $280 million across 4 commercial developments, 3 residential towers, and 1 rather ambitious waterfront project he should never have touched. Olivia's face went pale. That's not true. My father looked at Martin. Martin opened the leather folder and removed a document. Langford Holdings has 3 loans maturing within 90 days, Martin said calmly. 2 are secured against properties owned by Alden Group subsidiaries. 1 is personally guaranteed by Victor Langford. Olivia blinked rapidly. My father owns those buildings. My father tilted his head. Your father signs very confident leases. Even in that moment I nearly smiled. Ethan did not. His face had begun to shine faintly with sweat. Mr. Alden, he said, recovering just enough to try charm. There has clearly been a misunderstanding. My father looked at him. Yes. You misunderstood my daughter. Ethan swallowed. I didn't know Grace was your daughter. That is not a defense. It is the problem. Olivia looked at Ethan. You didn't know? He shot her a warning glance. I almost laughed. Even now he was trying to manage her reaction. That had always been Ethan's gift. Management. He managed emotion the way accountants manage columns. Move this here. Hide that there. Reclassify damage as inconvenience. Label betrayal as complexity. Call your wife dramatic. Call your mistress important. Call yourself practical. My father walked into the living room and looked around. He had been to my house before, of course, but rarely. I had insisted on privacy after marrying Ethan. I told myself it was healthy independence. In truth, I had been protecting my marriage from the size of my family. Or perhaps protecting Ethan from the truth that I had chosen him freely, not because I needed him. My father stopped in front of our wedding photograph. You looked happy, he said. I was. Ethan flinched. Good. A simple past tense can cut deeper than an accusation. My father turned to me. Do you want him removed? The question hung in the air. Ethan stepped forward. Removed? This is my home. Martin looked down at his folder. No, Mr. Walker. Your name does not appear on the deed, trust documents, tax filings, insurance policy, or any controlling residential agreement. Ethan's face reddened. I'm her husband. Currently, Martin said. The word landed beautifully. Currently. Olivia pulled the shirt tighter around herself, suddenly aware that fabric could become evidence. This is insane, she said. Ethan told me this was your house. I looked at Ethan. So did I. He turned on me. You never said your father owned Alden Group. No, I said. I said my father ran a company. You said investments. Yes. Alden Group isn't investments. Alden Group is. He stopped. He knew exactly what it was. Everyone did. Alden Group owned commercial real estate, medical office parks, logistics centers, hotels, private equity stakes, and enough land downtown that city planners used my father's approval the way sailors used weather reports. My father was not famous in the celebrity sense. He was worse. He was quietly unavoidable. Ethan's voice lowered. Why didn't you tell me? I smiled faintly. Why didn't you ask without calculating? His face darkened. That is unfair. No, I said. Unfair was bringing your mistress into my home and telling me to be careful because her father was rich. Olivia's eyes filled now. Not with remorse. With panic. What is going to happen to my father? My father looked at her. That depends on how quickly he calls me, and how honestly he explains whether he knew his daughter was using his name to threaten mine. I didn't threaten her, Olivia snapped. My father's expression did not change. You stood in my daughter's house wearing her husband's shirt while he told her not to upset you. Olivia opened her mouth. Closed it. For the first time she seemed to understand how ugly she looked from outside her own entitlement. Ethan tried again. Grace, can we speak privately? No. Please. No. You owe me at least. My father's cane struck the floor once. Ethan stopped. My father's voice was quiet. She owes you nothing in front of the woman you brought to replace her. Ethan looked at me. There it was. The first flicker of real fear. Not fear of losing me. Not yet. Fear of losing the life that came with me. That distinction mattered. The assistant's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Mr. Alden, Victor Langford is calling. My father held out his hand. She passed him the phone. He answered on speaker. Victor. A man's voice burst through, breathless. Charles, what the hell is going on? My CFO says our revolving credit review has been suspended and 3 leases flagged. My father looked at Olivia. Your daughter is standing in my daughter's foyer. Silence. Then Victor Langford said, What? Olivia's face crumpled. Dad. The line went deadly quiet. My father continued. Wearing my daughter's husband's shirt. Victor said nothing for 3 seconds. Then very softly, Olivia. Ethan closed his eyes. My father said, Your daughter's presence was introduced by Mr. Walker with a reminder that you own half the city and Grace should not upset her. Victor swore. Not loudly. Hopelessly. Charles, I didn't know. I assumed not. I swear to God I didn't. You may swear to your lenders instead. Martin will contact your counsel. Charles, please. We're days from closing the waterfront refinance. I know. That was the worst possible answer. Victor understood it. His voice cracked. Olivia, leave that house. Now. Olivia looked at Ethan. Ethan did not look back. That was when she knew she was alone. My father ended the call. No goodbye. Olivia's hand shook as she reached for her purse. I need my things, she whispered. I looked at the shirt. You can return that one first. Her face flushed scarlet. Ethan stepped toward her. Olivia. She slapped him. Hard. The sound rang through the foyer. Ethan stared at her, stunned. She pointed at him. You told me she was nobody. I almost laughed. There it was. The sentence that ended them. Not I'm sorry. Not I didn't know. You told me she was nobody. My father looked at Ethan. My daughter has never been nobody, he said. But you were very useful in proving who is. Olivia stormed toward the guest bathroom to change. Ethan stood in the foyer, one hand against his cheek. For once he had nothing to say. Then Martin handed him an envelope. What is this? Ethan asked. Martin's voice remained polite. Notice to vacate. Ethan stared. You can't be serious. I looked at him. I am. His eyes snapped to mine. You're throwing me out? No, I said. You walked out of this marriage when you walked in with her. He looked toward the bathroom door where Olivia had disappeared. Then back at me. Grace, I made a mistake. I smiled sadly. No, Ethan. You made a plan. And plans, as my father liked to say, deserved consequences. Ethan refused to leave for 47 minutes. That was impressive, considering the only thing still belonging to him in the house was a closet full of suits, a watch collection, 3 boxes of golf trophies, and the delusion that marriage gave him ownership over anything near him. He paced the living room while Olivia changed in the guest's bathroom. My father sat calmly in an armchair, cane resting across his knees. Martin made phone calls by the window. My father's assistant, Celeste, typed quickly on her tablet. The 2 security officers stood near the foyer like furniture with consequences. I remained in the kitchen with my coffee. Cold now. Still mine. Ethan came toward me after his 3rd call went unanswered. Grace, he said, lowering his voice. This has gotten out of hand. I looked at him. That sentence had carried our marriage for years. This has gotten out of hand. Meaning, your feelings have become inconvenient. Meaning, my choices should not have consequences this visible. Meaning, help me put the mess back behind a closed door. I set down the mug. No, Ethan. For once it is exactly in hand. His mouth tightened. Your father is overreacting. He asked if I wanted you removed. I said yes. Pain flashed across his face. Not deep enough. But there. After 6 years you can say that? After what you did I can say more. He stepped closer. Olivia means nothing. From the bathroom hallway Olivia shouted. Excuse me. Ethan closed his eyes. I almost admired the speed of his collapse. You brought a woman who means nothing into our home to threaten your wife with her father's money. He swallowed. I was angry. At what? He did not answer. At me. I asked. For not worshipping your promotion loudly enough? For asking why you came home smelling like another woman's perfume? For not agreeing to sell this house and move into that ridiculous penthouse you wanted near Langford Tower? His eyes flickered. There it was. A detail finding its place. My father's gaze sharpened from the living room. Langford Tower? He asked. Ethan turned slightly. It was just an idea. I looked at my father. Ethan wanted us to sell this house and move downtown. He said it would be better for his image. My father's face remained calm. Only his fingers moved once over the head of his cane. That tower is part of the pending Langford refinance. Martin looked up from his phone. Yes. Langford Tower carries exposure under the commercial restructuring package. Ethan's face went still. My father said, Mr. Walker, were you planning to move my daughter into an asset tied to Olivia Langford's family, while pursuing an affair with Olivia Langford? Ethan said nothing. That silence was louder than confession. I stared at my husband. Pieces rearranged themselves. The sudden insistence that the house was too suburban. The meetings downtown. The dinners with developers. The way Ethan had begun saying we needed to align socially. With people who mattered. The way Olivia had known the layout of my house before she walked in. You wanted me to sell, I said slowly. Ethan looked at me. I continued. You wanted the trust to liquidate this house. Grace. And move money into a Langford property. My father stood. The room changed. It was subtle but immediate. Even Ethan felt it. His shoulders stiffened. Martin, my father said. Already noted. Ethan raised both hands. That is not what happened. No. I asked. We discussed moving. Married couples discuss moving. Yes, I said. But most husbands don't discuss it while sleeping with the landlord's daughter. Olivia emerged from the hallway in her original blouse, face blotchy, hair less perfect. She threw Ethan's shirt at him. It hit his chest and fell to the floor. Don't drag me into your scheme, she snapped. Ethan turned on her. My scheme? You were the one who said your father needed friendly buyers in Langford Tower. My father looked at Olivia. She froze. Victor Langford's daughter had just gone from mistress to witness. Olivia whispered. I didn't know he was going to use her money. I laughed once. Everyone looked at me. I'm sorry, I said. It's just interesting how quickly betrayal becomes a misunderstanding when the rich people arrive. Olivia's eyes filled with humiliated tears. I'm not like that. You came into my house wearing my husband's shirt. She looked down. No answer. Good. Some facts do not need decoration. Ethan rubbed his face. Grace, we need to talk alone. No. Stop saying no. I tilted my head. You never used to mind when I said yes to everything. His face changed. That landed. Our marriage had been full of yes. Yes, Ethan, I'll attend the dinner. Yes, Ethan, I'll stay quiet when your boss jokes about wives spending money. Yes, Ethan, I'll let your mother call me sheltered. Yes, Ethan, I'll pretend it does not hurt when you introduce me as not really involved in business. Yes, Ethan, I'll keep my maiden name off the invitations because you think Alden sounds intimidating. Yes, Ethan. Yes. 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 That morning, no became a language. Olivia grabbed her purse. I'm leaving, my father said. A car is waiting. She looked startled. He nodded toward the window. A black sedan had pulled into the driveway. Of course it had. My father did not improvise often. He executed. Olivia looked at me. For a second I thought she might apologize. Instead she whispered, You should have told him who you were. I smiled faintly. And you should have asked who I was before helping him betray me. She flinched. Then left. The front door closed behind her. Ethan watched the sedan pull away. His face held panic now. Not about Olivia. About the disappearing bridge she represented. He turned to my father. Mr. Alden, I can explain the Langford Tower situation. My father looked at him as if he had found something unpleasant on his shoe. I am not your priest. Then he turned to Martin. Begin review of all Walker communications connected to Langford Holdings, Alden subsidiaries, and any attempted influence over Grace's trust assets. Ethan's head snapped toward me. You can't review my communications. Martin said. We can review communications sent through Alden-affiliated systems, contracts, investment proposals, and all messages voluntarily supplied by Mrs. Walker in connection with a potential marital asset manipulation claim. Ethan looked at me. Potential marital asset manipulation. He knew enough to understand danger. Grace, he said, voice low now. Think carefully. Divorce can get ugly. My father smiled. Mr. Walker, you brought your mistress into my daughter's house. Ugly has already arrived. We are only organizing it. Ethan's mouth opened, closed. Then my phone rang. My mother. I stared at the screen. My parents had been divorced for 20 years, but my mother still had a supernatural ability to call when blood was in the water. I answered. Mom. Her voice was breathless. Grace, why is your father's office calling me to confirm whether Ethan has access to your family trust? I looked at Ethan. He went still. My mother continued. And why did Ethan call me last week asking whether your father would ever consider transferring your inheritance before his death? The room froze. My father's eyes moved to Ethan. Slowly, Ethan whispered. That was not. I ended the call. For a moment no one spoke. Then I looked at my husband. You called my mother about my inheritance? Ethan's face had gone gray. My father's voice was very soft. Oh, Mr. Walker. Ethan swallowed. My father stepped closer. You were not having an affair. He paused. You were conducting due diligence. That was the first moment I truly understood. The betrayal was not only physical, not only emotional, it was financial, strategic, patient. My husband had not brought Olivia home because he wanted freedom. He brought her home because he thought he had found a richer door. And when he walked through it, he discovered my family owned the building. Victor Langford arrived at my house at 1:16 p.m. He came in person. That told me everything. Men like Victor did not apologize over the phone unless they had options. He had none. His black Bentley stopped behind my father's car. Victor climbed out before his driver could open the door. He looked larger on television than in person. Broad shoulders, thick silver hair, a face built for charity galas and negotiation rooms. That afternoon, he looked like a man who had spent the drive watching numbers die. Olivia was with him. She sat in the back seat staring straight ahead, eyes swollen. Victor walked to the front door and stopped. For once, he did not enter a property assuming welcome. He rang the bell. My father looked at me. Your choice. I stood. Let him in. Ethan, who had been forced to sit in the living room like a defendant waiting for sentencing, stood too. No, I said. Sit. His face tightened. He sat. Small satisfactions can be restorative. I opened the door. Victor Langford looked at me for 1 second, and I watched him understand 3 things at once. I was Charles Alden's daughter. I was Ethan Walker's wife. I was the woman his daughter had humiliated less than 3 hours earlier. Mrs. Walker, he said. My name is Grace Alden. Behind me Ethan flinched. Victor nodded. Ms. Alden, I owe you an apology. That's a beginning. His eyes flicked toward my father. Charles Alden stood near the fireplace, silent and severe. Victor stepped inside. Olivia followed him reluctantly. She had changed into a black sweater and jeans, her earlier confidence gone. Without the coat, the shirt, the performance, she looked younger. Not innocent. Just young. Victor stopped in front of my father. Charles. Victor. I had no knowledge of this. I believe you had no knowledge of the shirt. Victor's jaw tightened. My father continued. The rest remains to be determined. Victor looked at Ethan. The air sharpened. Ethan tried to stand. Victor pointed at him. Do not. Ethan stopped halfway, then lowered himself again. Victor's voice shook with contained fury. You told my daughter your wife was a spoiled nobody living off your salary. I laughed. I could not help it. Ethan closed his eyes. Victor turned to me. I apologize for repeating his words. At least he was honest enough not to pretend he had never heard them. Olivia whispered. Dad. Victor ignored her. He looked at my father. I need to protect the waterfront deal. I'm sure. Charles, if you freeze those concessions, Langford Holdings will default before quarter end. Yes. 4,000 jobs are connected to our active projects. My father's expression did not move. And yet your daughter was apparently confident enough in your position to threaten mine. Olivia burst into tears. I didn't threaten anyone. Victor turned on her. You walked into another woman's home as the mistress of her husband, and let him use my name like a weapon. What did you think that was? She recoiled. For the first time that day, I felt something almost like pity. Not enough to soften, but enough to see that Olivia had been raised in a world where consequences were staff responsibilities. Victor faced me. Ms. Alden, I am sorry. Truly. My daughter behaved disgracefully. I will not excuse that. Olivia sobbed harder. Ethan spoke suddenly. Victor, with respect, Olivia and I. Victor's head snapped toward him. With respect, he repeated. You used my daughter to pressure your wife, attempted to maneuver her into one of my distressed assets, and exposed my company to Charles Alden's wrath before lunch. Ethan's mouth closed. Victor stepped closer. You are either stupid or suicidal, my father said dryly. Possibly both. I should not have laughed. I did. Ethan's face darkened. Everyone is acting like I committed a crime. Martin looked up from his notes. You may have. The room went quiet. Ethan stared. What? Martin adjusted his glasses. Depending on communications, intent, and whether you attempted to induce your wife to liquidate trust property under false pretenses, several civil claims may apply. If falsified financial disclosures or third-party misrepresentations are involved, additional exposure may exist. Ethan looked at me. Grace, this is insane. You know I would never steal from you. I held his gaze. No. I know you thought I had less to steal. Victor inhaled sharply. Even Olivia stopped crying. There it was. The ugly center. If I had truly been the modest, unconnected woman Ethan pretended I was, he would not have become kinder. He would have become bolder. He had not betrayed me because he knew my worth. He betrayed me because he mispriced it. My father walked toward me. Grace, I will ask once. Do you want to proceed quietly or publicly? Ethan's head jerked up. Publicly. Victor closed his eyes. He knew the danger. Olivia whispered. Please. I looked around the room. At the husband who brought his mistress home. At the mistress who thought her father's wealth made her untouchable. At her father, who now understood that his empire was built partly on my father's patience. At my father, who had hidden his power because I asked him to let me build my own life. Then I looked at myself reflected faintly in the dark television screen. Grace Alden Walker. No. Grace Alden. I said. Quietly for now. Ethan exhaled. Too soon. I continued. But not kindly. My father nodded. Good distinction. Victor looked relieved enough to age 5 years. What do you require? I answered before my father could. Your daughter signs a written statement confirming Ethan represented me as financially insignificant, concealed our marriage status in discussions with her where relevant, and used your name to intimidate me in my home. Olivia looked horrified. That would ruin me. No, I said. It would describe you. Victor turned to her. You will sign. She stared at him. Dad. You will sign today. I continued. Your company provides all communications with Ethan concerning Langford Tower, my home, my trust, or any proposed purchase involving me. Victor nodded slowly. Done. Ethan stood. No. Absolutely not. My father looked at him. You are no longer the person being negotiated with. Ethan's face reddened. This is my marriage. I looked at him. No. This is the investigation into its death. Victor said. What else? I smiled faintly. Olivia leaves the city for a while. Olivia's mouth fell open. You can't banish me. No, I said. But your father can decide whether having you photographed with my husband helps his refinancing. Victor looked at her. Your apartment in Boston is still empty. She stared at him in betrayal. Are you serious? Victor's voice broke slightly. I am trying to save what you have not yet destroyed. She turned to Ethan. For help. For defense. For love. Ethan looked away. And that was the moment Olivia understood she had never been a queen. Only leverage. She signed the statement at my dining table 40 minutes later. Her hand shook. Ethan refused to sign anything. That was fine. Guilty men often mistake refusal for power. By sunset, Victor and Olivia were gone. My father remained. Ethan's suitcase sat by the door, packed by security under Martin's supervision. Ethan stood beside it, pale with rage. You'll regret this, he said. I looked at him. For loving you? Perhaps. He flinched. For leaving you? No. Security escorted him out. He paused on the threshold, turning back as if expecting me to break. I did not. The door closed. The house became silent. For the first time all day, I felt the shock in my body. My knees weakened. My father reached for me. I let him. For a moment, I was not the calm wife, the hidden heiress, the woman with lawyers in her living room. I was simply a daughter whose marriage had ended in the foyer. My father held me carefully. I'm sorry, Gracie, he said. I closed my eyes. So am I. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. You think your father can protect you from everything. He can't protect you from what I know. I stared at the screen. My father read it over my shoulder. His face changed. Not fear. Interest. What does he think he knows? He asked. I looked toward the closed door. I guess we're about to find out. Ethan's threat arrived like most things from him. Confident. Vague. Designed to make me do the work of being afraid. You think your father can protect you from everything. He can't protect you from what I know. 2 years earlier, that message might have worked. I would have read it 10 times, searching for the hidden blade. I would have called him. I would have asked what he meant. I would have apologized for angering him before I knew the accusation. That night, I handed my phone to Martin. He read the message and smiled. Not happily. Professionally. Excellent, he said. I blinked. Excellent. Threats are useful when preserved. My father poured himself a glass of water at the kitchen sink. He rarely drank alcohol during crisis. He said it gave chaos unnecessary assistance. Forward it to Martin, he said. I did. Then I sat at the island. The same island where I had stood that morning with coffee, believing the worst thing that would happen that day was seeing my husband's affair made flesh. I had been naive. The affair was a symptom. The disease was entitlement. By 8 o'clock, Celeste had compiled a timeline of Ethan's calls, meetings, and contract overlaps with Langford Holdings. Martin had requested document preservation from Victor's legal team. My father's security consultant had changed the alarm codes, gate access, garage entry, and digital locks. At 9, my mother arrived. My mother, Lydia Alden, was nothing like my father. Where he was ice, she was flame. She swept into the kitchen in a cream trench coat, took one look at my face and said, "Where is he?" "Gone." Temporarily or medically? Despite everything, I laughed. My father looked mildly offended. "Lydia." "What?" "I'm asking." She hugged me hard. My parents had divorced when I was 14, but they had never stopped functioning like two rival nations with a mutual defense treaty. They fought about everything. Except me. My mother pulled back and touched my cheek. "You look too calm." "I don't feel calm." "Good. Calm is overrated. Rage moves furniture." My father sighed. "It also leads to lawsuits. Charles, your lawyers need exercise." I sat between them at the kitchen island, suddenly exhausted. I don't understand how I missed it. My mother's face softened. "Because you loved him." "That sounds like an excuse." "No," she said. "It's an explanation. An excuse is what he'll use." My father nodded once. That was rare parental agreement. I almost documented it. Martin entered the kitchen holding his laptop. "We may know what he means." My stomach tightened. My father straightened. Martin placed the laptop on the island and turned it toward us. "There is a private email account tied to Ethan's personal domain. We cannot access it, obviously. But several emails forwarded from his company account show references to something called Project Willow." I frowned. "Willow?" My mother looked at my father. "Isn't that?" "Yes," my father said. His face had hardened. "What is Willow?" I asked. My father did not answer immediately. That scared me more than if he had. Finally, he said, Willow Foundation is a charitable trust connected to your grandmother's estate. My grandmother? My father nodded. It funds housing for women leaving abusive marriages, among other things. I stared at him. Why don't I know about it? Because you were to be told when you turned 40, unless certain conditions made earlier involvement appropriate. I'm 34. Yes. My mother said sharply, Charles. He looked at her. She should know now. Martin clicked a file. Ethan appears to have discovered the foundation through a donor list. He may believe Grace is connected to it in a way that could be publicly embarrassing. I frowned. Why would a foundation helping women embarrass me? Martin hesitated. My father's jaw tightened. My mother closed her eyes. I looked between them. What? My mother took my hand. Your grandmother created Willow after leaving your grandfather. I knew my grandparents' marriage had been cold. I did not know it had been cruel. My father said quietly, My father was not a good man. The room changed. My father rarely spoke of his childhood. When he did, he used phrases like difficult, strict, complicated. Not good. That was new. Willow was your grandmother's answer, he continued. Quietly funded. Quietly managed. It became part of Alden Group's philanthropic structure after her death. I looked at the laptop. And Ethan thinks what? Martin said. Possibly that he can frame you as a hypocrite. A woman secretly linked to an abuse support charity, while divorcing a husband who claims he was financially controlled by your family. I laughed. Then stopped. Because of course, Ethan had brought his mistress into my home, threatened me with her father's wealth, tried to maneuver my trust assets, and now intended to portray himself as the victim of a billionaire family. My mother muttered, I would like 5 minutes with him and no cameras. My father ignored her. Martin. We prepare for reputational attack. We also gather evidence of Ethan's financial motivations. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered on speaker. A woman's voice said, Grace. Yes. My name is Hannah Pierce. I was Ethan's assistant until last month. I think he's about to do something very stupid. Everyone in the kitchen went still. I looked at Martin. He nodded once. I said, Go on. Hannah inhaled shakily. He has files. On you. On your father. On Willow Foundation. On Langford Tower. He said if you ever tried to leave him, he'd make sure people saw you as a spoiled heiress pretending to be a victim. My mother whispered something I will not repeat. I said, Why are you calling me? Hannah's voice broke. Because he made me pull some of those files. And because he told me if I talked, he'd ruin my career. My father's expression sharpened. Martin said, Miss Pierce, this is Martin Shaw, counsel for the Alden family. Are you willing to speak with us formally? A pause. Yes. Do you have documents? Yes. Where are you? Outside your gate. I looked at the security screen. A small gray sedan sat at the end of the drive. My father turned to the security officer. Bring her in. Hannah Pierce was 27, dark-haired, and visibly terrified. She sat at my kitchen island with both hands wrapped around a mug of tea my mother gave her. She had brought a flash drive, printed emails, and a notebook. The first email she showed us was from Ethan to himself. Subject: If Grace pushes back. The body contained bullet points. Frame her as unstable due to infertility stress. Suggest Alden family controls her decisions. Emphasize my lack of access to marital assets. Mention Willow hypocrisy if needed. My hand went cold. Infertility stress. There it was. The old wound he kept in storage. Ethan and I had tried for children for 3 years. No success. No clear diagnosis. Eventually, I made peace with the uncertainty. Ethan said he did too. Apparently, he had filed it for future use. My mother's eyes filled with rage. My father looked murderous in the quietest possible way. Hannah whispered, I'm sorry. I looked at her. You didn't write it. No. But I printed things. I helped him organize. I told myself it was just executive protection. What changed? Her lips trembled. He laughed after sending Olivia to your house. He said you'd finally learn your place. Silence. My father stood. Martin. Yes. No quiet resolution. Ethan wanted war. My father had just accepted. Ethan went public at 8:03 the next morning. He chose a business gossip site first. That was typical. Not a major outlet with fact-checkers. Not a formal legal filing. A site that lived on anonymous tips, half-truths and headlines that sounded like they had been written by a cocaine-addicted intern. The headline appeared while I was brushing my teeth. Rising executive forced out of billionaire family marriage after refusing to be controlled. I stared at my phone. Then I laughed. A real laugh. Too loud for the bathroom. My mother knocked on the door. Grace. I opened it and handed her the phone. She read the headline. Her smile was terrifying. Oh good, she said. He's stupid early. The article painted Ethan as a hardworking self-made executive who married into an ultra-private real estate dynasty without fully understanding its power. It claimed I had hidden my identity to test him. It suggested my father used financial pressure to control our marriage. It implied Ethan's relationship with Olivia began only after we had privately separated. That line was my favorite. Privately separated. Apparently, I had been informed by the presence of his mistress in my foyer. The article also mentioned Willow Foundation, an Alden-linked charity for vulnerable women. It said, raising questions about whether Grace Alden Walker may be positioning herself as a victim despite vast financial resources. There it was. The move. If a woman has money, she cannot be harmed. If a woman has a powerful father, betrayal becomes inconvenience. If a woman is not helpless, she is not allowed to be wronged. By 9 o'clock, Martin had sent preservation letters. By 9:30, Victor Langford's legal team sent a statement confirming Olivia and Ethan had been involved before any separation, and that Ethan had misrepresented his wife's financial status. By 10, Hannah Pierce signed an affidavit. By 10:15, my father called a press consultant. At 10:30, I stopped him. No. He looked at me. No. I'll respond. My mother smiled. My father did not. Grace, public statements are dangerous. So is letting men define me. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Martin will review. Of course he would. I wrote the statement myself at the kitchen table. Not long. Not emotional. Not defensive. Ethan Walker and I were not privately separated when he brought another woman into my home. I did not authorize him to involve my name, my trust, or my family in any business arrangement connected to Langford Holdings or any other entity. I will address the end of my marriage through proper legal channels. I will not apologize for having family, resources, or boundaries. Martin read it, then looked at me. Excellent. My mother wiped one tear and pretended she had something in her eye. My father said quietly, your grandmother would have liked that last line. The statement went out at noon. By 12:10, the gossip site updated its article. By 12:30, two serious business reporters began asking why Ethan Walker had been connected to Langford Tower. By 1, Ethan called me 17 times. I answered none. 2, he texted, you're making this worse. I replied, no, I'm making it accurate. Then I blocked him. The next wave came from his mother. Ethan's mother, Margaret Walker, had always disliked me for a very different reason than Ethan did. She believed I had married down emotionally, but held back financially. At our wedding, she told my aunt that I seemed pleasant enough if reserved. After dinner parties, she asked Ethan whether my father planned to help young couples get established, or whether the Aldens believed in cold independence. I had spent 6 years pretending not to understand. Margaret arrived at my gate at 3:20 p.m. She did not drive herself. She was too grand for that. A hired black car idled behind her while she pressed the intercom like it had offended her. I watched from the security screen. Pearls. Perfect hair. Anger disguised as concern. Grace, she said when I answered. Let me in. No. Her face changed. I am still your mother-in-law. Temporarily. My mother, standing behind me, whispered, nice. Margaret's eyes narrowed. I understand emotions are high, but Ethan is being vilified. He brought his mistress into my home. He says the marriage had been over for months. He is lying. You are not blameless. I almost smiled. The anthem of mothers defending sons. Not blameless. As if betrayal were a group project. Margaret, what do you want? I want you to stop your father from destroying my son. My father did not unzip Ethan's pants. My mother made a choking sound behind me. Margaret's face went scarlet. You vulgar little. Careful, I said. She inhaled sharply. You think money makes you untouchable. No. I think cameras make you accountable. Her eyes flicked toward the gate camera. Good. She lowered her voice. Grace, Ethan knows things about your family. He knows about Willow. He knows about your fertility treatments. He knows about your private pain. If this becomes ugly, everyone will suffer. There it was. A threat wearing pearls. I looked at my mother. Her face had gone cold. I pressed the intercom. Margaret, are you threatening to publicize my medical history because your son cheated? She froze. I said nothing of the sort. You said enough. I am trying to protect my family. So am I. Then I ended the call. Margaret remained at the gate for 12 minutes. Then left. At 4, Martin sent her attorney a notice regarding attempted intimidation and medical privacy concerns. 5, a second article dropped. This one from a legitimate business outlet. Langford Holdings faces scrutiny after executive affair exposes possible asset pressure scheme. Ethan had wanted me humiliated. Instead, he had connected his mistress, her father, his mother, and himself to a paper trail. By dinner, Langford Holdings stock in its publicly traded debt vehicle had dropped. By midnight, Ethan's employer placed him on leave pending internal review. At 1:13 a.m., he sent a message from an unknown number. Grace, please. I made a mistake. Don't let your father ruin my life. I stared at it, then typed back. You keep confusing my father with your consequences. The reply came instantly. I loved you. I looked at the words for a long time. Then I answered. No. You loved what you thought I didn't know. I slept very well after that. The next morning divorce papers were filed. Not quietly. Not kindly. Accurately. And the first document Rachel submitted included Ethan's own words. Frame her as unstable due to infertility stress. That sentence became the match. The fire came next. I had not planned to make our infertility public. Some pain is not shameful, but that does not make it communal property. Ethan knew that. That was why he used it. For 3 years we tried to have a child. Quietly at first. Then medically. Then desperately. I learned the language of waiting rooms and blood draws, hormone levels and cycle days, hope and scheduled disappointment. Ethan performed concern well in the beginning. He came to the first appointment, held my hand during the second. By the third, he was answering emails in the waiting room. By the fourth, he said, "Do I really need to be there?" By the fifth, I went alone. Tests found no clear reason. Unexplained infertility, the doctor said. A phrase that sounds neutral until it moves into your house and rearranges your marriage. Ethan said it did not matter. Then, during arguments, he began saying things like, "You don't understand legacy." Or, "Some people are built for family. Some aren't." Or, after 2 glasses of wine, "Maybe this is nature's way of telling us something." He always apologized the next day. I always accepted. Because I wanted the marriage to survive more than I wanted the apology to be adequate. Now he had turned that private wound into strategy. Frame her as unstable due to infertility stress. My father wanted to bury him in legal filings. My mother wanted to bury him elsewhere. I wanted something cleaner. So I called Denise Marlowe. Denise ran Willow Foundation. I had met her only twice before, both times at formal events where I smiled politely and understood almost nothing about the work my grandmother had started. That changed after Ethan's email surfaced. Denise came to my house the next afternoon. She was in her late 50s, black, elegant, with short silver curls and the kind of eyes that made lying feel pointless. She sat across from me in the garden room while rain tapped gently against the glass. My father, mother, Martin, and Rachel waited in the library. I wanted this conversation without family armor. Denise read Ethan's email twice. Then she set it down. "Men like this don't invent weapons," she said. "They pick up what society leaves lying around." I looked at her. Infertility. Among other things. My hands tightened around my tea. I don't want to become a poster child. Then don't. I also don't want him to use it. Then take it out of his mouth. That sentence settled over me. Take it out of his mouth. How? Denise leaned back. Tell the truth in your own words. Not all of it. Not details you don't want public. But enough to make his version unusable. So I did. Not immediately. Not impulsively. The next morning, Willow Foundation released a letter signed by me. For 3 years, I experienced infertility inside my marriage. That experience was painful, private, and mine. Recently, written communications revealed an intent to use that history to portray me as unstable during divorce and financial proceedings. I am sharing this now for one reason. No person's medical grief should be weaponized by a spouse, partner, or family member. Infertility is not instability. Pain is not incompetence. Privacy is not an invitation for someone else to write the story. The response was immediate. Not just from gossip sites. From women. Hundreds of them. Emails. Comments. Letters. My husband called me dramatic after my miscarriage. My in-laws blamed me for IVF failing. My ex used my depression in custody court. Thank you for saying privacy is not shame. I sat at my kitchen table reading messages until my vision blurred. My pain, which Ethan had intended to use against me, had become a door for other women to walk through. That was the first time I felt grateful he had been foolish enough to write it down. The backlash hit him hard. His company extended his leave. A professional women's group canceled his speaking appearance. Margaret Walker deleted her social media after people found old posts praising traditional family strength and women who know their purpose. Olivia, from Boston Exile, issued a statement through her father's PR team saying she had been misled regarding Ethan Walker's marital circumstances and financial representations. It was not a full apology, but it was a shovel digging him deeper. Then came the real blow. Hannah Pierce provided emails showing Ethan had asked her to research whether infertility could be used to challenge a spouse's credibility in divorce negotiations. Rachel read that email aloud in my living room. My mother stood up and walked outside because, in her words, I need to scream somewhere with plants. My father remained still. Too still. Martin looked at him and said, Charles. My father nodded. I know. But I didn't know. Not yet. That evening, my father asked me to walk with him through the garden. The rain had stopped. The air smelled like wet cedar and roses. My father moved slowly with his cane, though I suspected he needed it less than he let people think. I failed you, he said. I stopped. No. Yes. Dad, Ethan failed me. And I let you build a life with a man I never trusted because I wanted you to feel free. I looked at him. He stared toward the dark lawn. When you married him, I thought he loved your quietness. Later, I realized he depended on it. That hurt because it was true. My father continued. I should have told you. I wouldn't have listened. Perhaps. I loved him. I know. His voice softened. That is why I did not push. Your mother said I was being proud. She was right. I almost smiled. You're admitting Mom was right? Do not repeat it. We walked a little farther. Then he said, Grace, Willow Foundation is yours if you want it. I turned. What? Your grandmother's trust names you as future chair. It was always meant to pass to you. I thought it was Dad's philanthropy. No. It was your grandmother's survival. Then mine to protect. Now perhaps yours to lead. I looked toward the house. The same house where Ethan had tried to make me feel powerless. Now I stood in its garden being handed a legacy built by a woman who had escaped cruelty and turned money into shelter. My throat tightened. I don't know how. My father looked at me. You learned how to love a difficult man. Administration will be easier. I laughed through tears. The next week, I accepted an interim role at Willow. Ethan found out through the press release. His response was immediate. He sent one email to Rachel, copying Martin. Grace is exploiting our infertility for public sympathy and using her father's influence to destroy me. Rachel forwarded it to me with one line. He continues to be generous with evidence. By then, I had stopped trembling when his name appeared. That was progress. But Ethan was not finished. Men like him rarely accept losing control privately. They seek a room, an audience, a final performance. He chose the Alden Group annual gala. and he came with cameras. The Alden Group annual gala was not really a party. It was a pressure system in evening wear. Developers, bankers, hospital executives, city officials, nonprofit directors, museum trustees, and people who smiled with their teeth while calculating debt ratios gathered under chandeliers to drink champagne and pretend philanthropy was simple. I had avoided it for most of my adult life. That year, I attended as incoming chair of Willow Foundation. My father insisted on escorting me. My mother insisted my dress needed more drama. Rachel insisted I say nothing to Ethan if he appeared. Martin insisted Ethan would not be stupid enough to appear. Martin was wrong. Ethan arrived at 8:42 p.m. He wore a tuxedo, a wounded expression, and a camera crew from an online business channel that specialized in confrontational interviews with titles like Billionaire Family Silences Self-Made Man. I saw him across the ballroom before he saw me. For one brief moment, grief moved through me. Not love. Not longing. Grief for the man I once believed he was. Then he turned, spotted me, and began walking. Camera behind him. Microphone visible. A performance. My father moved beside me. I touched his arm. No. He looked at me. I'll handle it. My mother, standing on my other side, whispered, "Please handle it with witnesses." I smiled. Ethan stopped 3 feet away. Grace. Ethan. The camera light glowed. People nearby turned. He looked pale but determined. I came because I refused to let your family destroy my reputation without answering for what you did. I tilted my head. What did I do? You hid who you were. You let me build a marriage under false pretenses. A murmur moved through the small crowd forming. There it was. The argument. You did not tell me you were powerful, so my cruelty is your fault. I kept my voice calm. Ethan, when we met, I told you my father ran a company. You told me you didn't care about family money. His jaw tightened. I cared about honesty. No. You cared about access once you realized there might be money behind a door you had not been shown. The camera moved closer. Good. He wanted spectacle. Let him have clarity. He said, "You used your father to attack me. You brought your mistress into my home." He winced. We were separated emotionally. Someone nearby laughed. Ethan's face flushed. I continued. You brought Olivia Langford to my house while wearing your wedding ring and told me not to upset her because her father owned half the city. The murmur grew louder. Ethan said, I was angry. At what? My ignorance of your affair. His eyes flashed. You were impossible to talk to. Because I asked questions? Because you made me feel small. There it was. The first honest sentence he had said all evening. I looked at him for a long moment. No, Ethan. I stopped making myself smaller. You experienced that as an attack. The crowd went very quiet. His mouth tightened. You think you're so much better than me now. No. You do. No, I said. I think I am finally better to myself. That landed. I saw it in his face. For 1 second he almost looked ashamed. Then the performance returned. He turned toward the camera. This is what the Aldens do. They dress control as virtue. My father stepped forward. I held up one hand. Ethan. He looked back at me. You brought cameras. Are you sure? He frowned. Sure about what? I nodded to Rachel. She handed me a folder. Ethan's face changed. He knew folders had become dangerous. I opened it. This is your email instructing your assistant to frame me as unstable due to infertility stress. The camera operator shifted. Ethan's eyes widened. I lifted another page. This is your email asking whether my medical history could be used in divorce negotiations. He stepped forward. Those are privileged. Rachel said calmly. They were voluntarily provided by your former assistant and do not contain attorney-client legal advice. I lifted a third page. This is Olivia Langford's signed statement confirming you represented me as financially insignificant, concealed relevant facts about our marriage, and suggested she use her father's status to pressure me. People whispered. Ethan looked around. The room was no longer his audience. It was a jury. He reached for the folder. My father's security officer stepped between us. Ethan stopped. His voice cracked. You're ruining me. I looked at him. No. I am refusing to disappear quietly so you can survive your own behavior. A woman near the front began clapping, then stopped embarrassed. My mother said, "No, continue." The woman clapped again. Others joined. Not thunderous, not theatrical, but enough. Ethan's face collapsed. The camera was still recording. That was when Victor Langford appeared. I had not known he was there. He walked through the crowd with Olivia beside him. She looked thinner. Dark dress. No diamonds. Victor stopped near Ethan. "Mr. Walker," he said, "Langford Holdings has provided all requested communications to Mrs. Alden's counsel." Ethan turned white. Olivia looked at me. Then publicly in front of everyone she said, "Grace, I'm sorry." The room went still again. Her voice shook. "I knew he was married. I knew I was in your home. I let him use my father's name. I didn't know everything, but I knew enough to know I was wrong." Ethan stared at her. "Olivia." She did not look at him. "I'm sorry," she said again. It did not fix anything. But it was more than Ethan had managed. I nodded once. "Thank you." Victor turned to my father. "Charles." My father nodded. "Victor." That was all. But in their world, that was a paragraph. Ethan looked around at the room that had turned against him. Then he did the final thing weak men do when truth corners them. He lunged for pain. "You think any of this changes the fact that you couldn't give me a child?" The words hit the room like a gunshot. My mother moved first. My father caught her wrist. Not because Ethan did not deserve it. Because cameras. I stood perfectly still. Ethan's chest rose and fell. He knew he had gone too far. But he had already said it. The camera had it. The room had it. I had it. I walked closer. Security tensed. I stopped just beyond Ethan's reach. "You are right," I said softly. "I did not give you a child." His expression flickered with sick triumph. I continued. "And thank God I did not have to teach one how to survive your love." The silence afterward was absolute. Then my mother whispered, "Oh, Gracie." Ethan looked as if I had slapped him. I turned away. "Rachel, please send that footage to the court." The camera operator lowered his camera slowly. Ethan whispered my name. I did not turn back. By midnight, the clip was everywhere. Not the one Ethan planned. The one where he used infertility as a weapon in a ballroom full of donors, lawyers, executives, and women who had funded half the city. By morning, his reputation was no longer damaged. It was defined. The settlement meeting took place in a glass conference room on the 32nd floor of a building my father's company owned. That was not intentional, according to Rachel. I suspected it was a little intentional. Ethan arrived with his attorney, a tired-looking man named Paul Mercer who had the expression of someone being paid well to manage a client who ignored advice. I arrived with Rachel. My father did not come. Neither did my mother. This was mine. Ethan looked different. Not humble exactly. Reduced. His suit fit, but the man inside it seemed smaller. The arrogance had been replaced by resentment and exhaustion. Public disgrace had not made him better. Not yet. It had simply made him aware that consequences had a schedule. We sat across from each other. Rachel opened the folder. "Mrs. Alden is prepared to offer the following terms." Ethan looked up sharply. "Alden?" "Yes," I said. I restored my name. His mouth tightened. The terms were simple. The house remained mine. My trust remained untouched. Ethan kept his personal retirement accounts in certain separate assets. He waived any claim connected to Alden Group, Willow Foundation, family trusts, real estate holdings, future inheritance, charitable structures, and appreciation on properties he never owned. In exchange, we would not pursue certain civil claims immediately, provided he cooperated fully with ongoing investigations into Langford Tower Communications and refrained from public or private defamation. Ethan listened, then laughed bitterly. "So I walk away with nothing." Rachel looked at him. "You walk away with what is yours. That house was my home." I looked at him. "Yes. And then you brought another woman into it." He looked down. His attorney whispered something. Ethan shook his head. "No. I want spousal support." Paul closed his eyes. Rachel's eyebrows lifted. "On what basis?" Ethan leaned forward. Grace concealed her financial status during the marriage. I made career decisions based on incomplete information. I turned down opportunities because I believed we were building a normal life. I stared at him. It was almost impressive. Even stripped of everything, he was still searching for a way to bill me for his ignorance. Rachel said, "Mr. Walker, you were employed full-time throughout the marriage, spent extensively on personal luxuries, and attempted to maneuver Mrs. Alden into liquidating trust property. We can litigate support if you insist." Paul whispered urgently. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then he looked at me. "Did you ever love me?" The question landed in the wrong room. It did not belong between legal clauses and settlement drafts. But perhaps that was all we had left. I answered anyway. "Yes." His face changed. "I loved you enough to hide parts of myself because I thought comfort was kindness. I loved you enough to let you feel bigger than you were. I loved you enough to mistake your insecurity for sensitivity." My voice remained steady. "But you loved me only when you believed I was useful, manageable, and beneath you." He looked away. "That's not true. Ethan." He did not look back. "You told Olivia I was nobody." His throat moved. "You wrote that my infertility made me unstable." Silence. "You brought her into my house." His eyes filled then. "Too late. Still real." "I was angry," he whispered. "You were cruel." He nodded once. Barely. But he nodded. That was the closest thing to accountability I had seen from him. Then he said, "I hate that I didn't know." I almost smiled. "About my father?" "About you." That surprised me. He looked up. "I hate that I didn't know you had that much strength, that much money, that much life outside me." I studied him. "You could have known the strength." He blinked. "I showed you that part for free." For the first time he looked truly ashamed. His attorney slid a pen toward him. "Ethan," Paul said softly, "sign." Ethan stared at the settlement. Then at me. Then he signed. It took 7 minutes to end the legal negotiations of a 6-year marriage. Of course, the emotional ending had happened long before. After the meeting, Ethan lingered near the elevator. Rachel gave me a questioning look. "I'm fine," I said. She stepped aside but remained close. Ethan looked at me. "I'm sorry." There it was. Small. Plain. No audience. No cameras. No mistress. No mother. No father. Just 2 words in a hallway. I waited. He continued. "I'm sorry I used your pain. I'm sorry I tried to scare you. I'm sorry I made you think loving me required shrinking." My throat tightened unexpectedly. Not because I wanted him back. Because part of me had waited years to hear even a small portion of that truth. "Thank you," I said. Hope flickered in his face. I let it die gently. "I hope you become someone who means that before he loses everything." He closed his eyes. The elevator opened. I stepped inside. He did not follow. As the doors began to close, he said, "Grace." I looked at him. "Would you have stayed if I had told the truth earlier?" The old me would have answered to comfort him. The new me answered to honor myself. "No," I said. "But I might have left with less damage." The doors closed. For the first time I did not feel triumphant. I felt free. Freedom is quieter than victory. No music. No applause. Just the absence of a hand around your throat. That evening I went to Willow Foundation. Denise was in the community room arranging chairs for a support group. I helped without telling her the divorce settlement had been signed. After 10 minutes she looked at me. "It's done, isn't it?" I nodded. She handed me a stack of pamphlets. "Good. Put these on the table." I laughed. That was exactly what I needed. Not champagne. Not speeches. Work. Useful work. Women began arriving at 6. Some wore wedding rings. Some had removed them. Some had bruises no makeup could hide. Some had no visible wounds at all, which did not mean they were less injured. I sat in the back and listened. One woman said, "He told me no one would believe me because his family is important." Another said, "He never hit me, so I thought I wasn't allowed to call it abuse." Another whispered, "I have money so people think I can't be trapped." I closed my eyes. There it was. The lesson. Pain does not check bank balances before entering a marriage. Power does not protect a woman if she has been taught not to use it. After the meeting I called my father. It's done, I said. He was quiet. Then softly, are you all right? I thought about that. No. He inhaled. But I will be. That is better than lying. I smiled. Yes. He paused. Your grandmother would be proud. For once I did not deflect. I hope so. The next morning, I moved Ethan's last box to the garage. A courier picked it up at noon. At 12:03 my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I opened the message. It was from Olivia. I signed the full statement. I also gave Martin the messages Ethan deleted. I know this doesn't make it right. I'm sorry for what I did in your house. I stared at it, then typed. Use the lesson well. That is all I can offer. She replied. I will. Maybe she would. Maybe she wouldn't. Not my burden. I blocked the number. Then I walked through my house. Room by room. The foyer where she had stood. The living room where Ethan had paced. The kitchen where I sent the text. The garden room where Denise had told me to take my story back. It was strange how quickly a place can become yours again, once the wrong person's voice leaves it. At sunset, my father arrived with dinner. Chinese takeout. Too much of it. He set the bags on the island. I assumed you had not eaten. I'm 34, Dad. And yet. He was right. We ate from containers with wooden chopsticks. No gala. No lawyers. No strategy. Just my father and me at the kitchen island. After dinner, he said, there's a board meeting next month. Willow Foundation. You should chair it. I don't know if I'm ready. No one worth trusting ever thinks they are. I looked at him, then nodded. All right. He smiled. Small. Proud. That smile meant more than I expected. 1 year after Ethan brought Olivia into my house, I hosted a dinner in the same dining room where she had signed her statement. Not a revenge dinner. Not a celebration of divorce. Something better. A fundraiser for Willow Foundation. There were no ice sculptures. No society photographers. No men performing generosity near cameras. Just 22 people around 2 long tables. Donors, lawyers, shelter directors, doctors, women who had survived marriages that looked beautiful from the outside, and my parents who sat at opposite ends of the room and somehow still managed to argue about the floral arrangements. My father thought white roses were classic. My mother said white roses looked like an apology from a guilty husband. My mother won. We used wildflowers. Before dinner, I stood in the foyer alone for a moment. The house was warm with conversation. Candlelight moved along the walls. Music played softly from the living room. Rain tapped against the windows the way it had the night Hannah Pierce arrived with the flash drive. I looked at the spot near the console table where Olivia had stood in Ethan's shirt. For the first time, the memory did not burn. Simply existed. A thing that happened. Thing I survived. Denise found me there. You ready? She asked. No. Good. Ready people are boring. I laughed. She handed me a small card. My speech notes. I had written them myself and then ignored half of Martin's suggested edits because he kept removing the best lines. At dinner, my father introduced me. Not as his daughter. Not as Grace Walker. As Grace Alden, chair of Willow Foundation. People stood. I wanted to hide behind a centerpiece. Instead, I stood. I looked around the room. Then I spoke. A year ago, I learned that betrayal can walk through your front door wearing confidence and borrowed clothing. Laughter moved through the room. My mother raised her glass. My father closed his eyes briefly, as if praying for restraint he knew I would not use. I continued. I also learned that silence is not peace. Sometimes silence is just fear with better manners. The room quieted. Willow Foundation was created by my grandmother after she left a marriage the world told her to endure. She had money, yes. She had privilege. But she also had shame, isolation, and a family name people used to keep her quiet. I looked at the women from our shelter partners. Pain does not become less real because a woman has resources. Abuse does not become harmless because it happens in a beautiful house. Betrayal does not become private property because a husband has a reputation. My voice steadied. This foundation exists because every woman deserves not only escape, but a life afterward. Legal support, housing, medical privacy, financial education, counseling, work, friendship, joy. A locked door when she needs one. An open door when she chooses one. Applause rose softly. I looked toward my father. His eyes shone. My mother was already crying openly because she had never respected subtlety. I smiled. And to any person who has ever been told not to upset someone powerful, let me say this. I lifted my glass. Upset them. This time the applause was not soft. It filled the room. After dinner, people lingered late. My mother danced with Denise near the fireplace. My father pretended not to enjoy it. Martin had 3 pieces of cake. Rachel cornered a banker about pro bono funding. Life, I had learned, becomes beautiful again in strange ways. Near 10 o'clock my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. For a second, old tension moved through me. Then I read it. It was from Ethan. I heard about the fundraiser. I won't contact you again after this. I just wanted to say I'm glad you used what happened for something good. I'm sorry I was the reason it had to happen. I stared at the message. No demand. No blame. No hook. Just words. I thought for a moment. Then replied. You were not the reason I became strong. You were the reason I stopped hiding it. I sent it. Then blocked the number. Not angrily. Cleanly. Some doors do not need to slam. They simply need to close. Later, after the last guest left, I walked my father to his car. The night air was cold. The driveway shone faintly under the lights. My father moved slowly with his cane. At the car he paused. You know, he said, when you texted me that morning I almost called first. I smiled. Why didn't you? Because I knew if I heard your voice, I might ask whether you were sure. And you deserved better than hesitation. My throat tightened. Thank you. He nodded. Then said, I should have trusted you with the truth of our family sooner. Maybe. I wanted you to be loved without money involved. I know. Instead, you were lied to without it. I laughed softly. That's one way to put it. His face softened. Are you happy, Gracie? I looked back at the house. The lights glowing. The wildflowers still on the tables. The rooms full of my grandmother's legacy, my mother's laughter, my father's protection, my own name restored. I'm getting there, I said. He smiled. That is a respectable destination. He left. I stood in the driveway until his taillights disappeared. Then I went inside. The house was quiet now. Not empty. Quiet. I walked to the kitchen island and placed my phone on the marble surface. 1 year earlier, I had stood there while my husband told me not to upset his mistress. I had said nothing. I had sent one text. 2 minutes later, the world he built on my silence began to collapse. But that was not the real revenge. The real revenge was not Ethan losing Olivia. Not Langford begging. Not the divorce settlement. Not the gala where his cruelty became public. The real revenge was this. I still lived in the house. I still carried my name. I still had my father, my mother, my work, my future. And Ethan no longer had access to any version of me that would make herself smaller to keep him comfortable. I turned off the lights one by one. In the foyer, I stopped beside the wedding photograph that had once hung on the wall. It was gone now. In its place hung a black and white photograph of my grandmother at 28, standing on the steps of the first house she bought after leaving my grandfather. She wore gloves, a hat, a smile that looked like a secret and a warning. At the bottom, in her handwriting, were the words, "A woman's life begins again the moment she stops asking permission." I touched the frame. Then I went upstairs. For the first time in years, I slept without listening for footsteps that no longer belonged in my house. In the morning, sunlight filled the room. My phone stayed silent. No threats. No apologies. No men telling me what I was allowed to feel. I made coffee, opened the windows, and let the house breathe.